Welcome to our series, Freedom from Demonic Possession, what the Church teaches about exorcism and deliverance. A series of conversations with religious hermit, Sister Seraphim, with host Kathy Sinnott. Parental caution is advised.
Sister Seraphim, it's lovely to be here with you in your hermitage.
Well, I must be honest, it's absolutely delightful for me to see you. I rarely have visitors, for which I'm grateful. But to see you coming and wanting this type of information gives joy and hope to my heart, because so many people out there are in need of this sort of thing and knowledge about it.
Well, we're very minor visitors here because you have the Lord. You have your own little chapel with the Eucharist reserved.
Yes. When I first had the Blessed Sacrament brought into the house, a part of me could not believe that it had actually happened, because it just seemed so awesome and still does to have the divine presence in our very midst all day, is amazing, yeah.
Sister, you're from Buckinghamshire.
Yes, from Buckinghamshire, south of England.
Well,
yes.
How did you get from a little girl in Buckinghamshire to being a sister and then a hermit?
Well, I entered the Poor Clares. I've got about nearly 40 years of contemplative life, both with monastic life and being a hermit for the last, about 26 years. And I asked permission about could I be a hermit, and they said, you go and try it out, get it out of your system. And that was 26 years ago.
How is it going, sister?
Wonderfully. I wouldn't change it for the world.
So it's still in your system?
Absolutely.
Sisters, let's start from the beginning with all of this. We're all familiar with the physical realm. We look out the window, the world around us, all the busyness of our lives, everything we do, we touch, we taste. But our faith tells us there's another realm, the realm of the spirit. So we're living in these two realms, the material, the physical realm, and on the other hand, the spiritual realm. So can you tell us about what the Catholic faith teaches us about this spiritual realm?
Well, the spiritual realm primarily, of course, is God himself. Supernatural being of God himself, the Trinity. And the truths of the faith are all of the spiritual realm. You have hell, you have heaven, you have purgatory. And these are all in the spiritual realm. And I like to think of that as an interdimensional realm, if you like. Interdimensional because things come through to us. But in order to come through to us, we need to experience it according to the way we can experience things. But the spiritual realm is very real. Very real. And we ourselves have a spiritual dimension, which we call our soul, which is a part of ourselves, which is ourselves actually, which can unite with God. So the spiritual realm is everything that is going on between God and our innermost soul that helps to unite us with God, and all the helps are given in that way. And the amazing thing is that we, as in the material realm, our spirits are capable of fusing and becoming one with, though retaining our own identity, in the supernatural realm of God himself. We have a life in the Trinity. That's our destiny. That's what heaven is.
Sister, you were led into this ministry of deliverance. How did that happen?
Well, it's not so much a question of being led as I've fallen into it head first. I was, someone was praying and they said, they prayed, and I said, pray for me, and they prayed for me. And they said, what do you want for your prayer? And with no forethought, I said, I'd like to have the gift of recognizing evil spirits and delivering people from them. And I heard myself saying the words, and I was utterly horrified. I mean, literally. It had never entered my head to do such a thing or even think about it. So I instantly said, that's if God wants me to, and if he does, you better pray for my deliverance first from fear, because there's no way I would touch that area with a barge pole. No way. And about 10 days later, it was just before Holy Week, and I went on like a semi-retreat, if you might say, for Easter with a priest friend. And I was only there for over the holy ceremonies and everything. And on Easter Tuesday, he said to me, "Look, I've got someone I'm praying with. Would you come with me this morning?" And I said, well, yeah, sure. Is it the man who's got water on his lungs that you ask prayers for publicly at Mass. He said, no, this is a woman I'm exorcising. And I thought, oh my goodness me. He didn't know
He's taking me at my word.
And yes, exactly. The Lord's up to something. But I didn't think that then. I was just thought of, I wish I'd known. I wouldn't have eaten breakfast. I'd have fasted. I've done something you're supposed to do with things like that. But anyway, I'm only going along, and he's the exorcist for the diocese. So I'm just an assistant, as it were, just going, never been to anything like that in my life before. So I was sitting in the car, and there's this block of flats, and about the 5th floor up, he said, she lives up there. I said, oh, okay then. So I went up there, and just as the lady opened the door to us, and as she was opening the door and turned then to lead us in, this priest took some salt out of his pocket and just flicked it at her back.
Blessed salt.
Blessed salt, that's right. Because she wouldn't know it, and he could tell if there was response, if there was something demonic there, you see, because she wouldn't feel it. So I don't know if there was or not, because this was all new to me. But anyway, I went in.
Okay.
He began to read the Gospel, the Passion and the Resurrection, and started to read his little minor rite of exorcism that he was using. And I'm just sitting there on the sofa. And then when he finishes it, he starts saying, come out of her. And I thought, and up without any forethought, nothing planned, because I knew nothing. I got up. I took the Benedict crucifix off my belt, which is my number crucifix, about 8 inches long. I went over to this woman. I held it in front of her face, and I started praying over her. And she's grabbing this cross, and she tries to spit on it, and she flung it across the room 3 times, and Father just went over, picked it up, gave it back to me, and I carried on standing there, and praying. And then she started roaring like a lion, and then clawing, her hands sort of go into like claw shapes, like all the fingers together, and she's clawing the air and roaring like a lion. And there I'm just praying away there, And I mean, I could have been at a Victorian tea party. There was nothing it didn't affect me in any, there was no fear.
That's right.
I prayed.
You had engaged in the battle.
There was no fear at all. I could have quite simply been having a cup of tea, talking about, what was on the news yesterday. There was no fear. It was like the most normal, natural thing in the world. Also, I knew nothing about the rites, what you could and couldn't do. I knew nothing about all that. I'd never been before. So I just followed the instinct that came on me without me knowing it was going to come. Anyway, cut a long story short, we let this woman talk a lot, and I could tell from things she said, because I've had literally 3 or 4 decades of studying mystical theology, demonology, Thomas Aquinas. Everything I do is based on Thomas Aquinas church teaching. And so I knew a lot about these things without physically having encountered it in other people, or only theoretically, right? So she said a lot of things that were really ringing bells for me big time. Yes. And anyway, we finished, the prayers were said, we had a cup of tea, and you'd think it was my flat and not her flat, because when we finished, I said, shall I make you a cup of tea? She's like, okay. Instead of me being a guest there, it was like it was my flat and I was offering her tea. I went off the kitchen and made her tea. When we got down to the car afterwards, Father grinned at me, you see, and he said, you didn't know that was going to happen, did you? You didn't know it was going to happen, did you now? And he's grinning all over his face. And I said, Father, I want to tell you something. You're saying I didn't know that was, and I want to tell you something you didn't know. 10 days ago, I got prayed over for that gift. That's how I fell into it.
Yes.
And then...
ask and you shall receive.
Exactly. And the weird thing was that from that moment to today, that's about 12, 13 years ago or so, I have never been out without somebody I'm helping in this area.
Yes.
How did they know? I'd never talked to anyone about it. And then suddenly I have one person after the other falling into all sorts of demonic manifestations and all sorts of things. Till this day, and I'm still helping people at the moment, I've had this gift.
Sister, that's so interesting. And of course, that's our series. That's what our series is about. Freedom from demonic possession, what the church teaches about exorcism and deliverance. I'm Kathy Sinnott, and I'm talking to Sister Seraphim, and Sister is a hermit, and she's been ministering in the area of deliverance for many years. Sister, you found out that you had this gift, that you've been called into this area of ministry. What did you do then?
I thought I'd better put it to the test, because that's what Paul says you do with things like this. So I took advice. I saw exorcists. I went on a course about deliverance to discover about it. I went and bought books about it because there are many good Catholic books on deliverance and the relationship of deliverance to healing. I found out about how you to discern between possession and mental illness. There was a whole field of knowledge I had to learn, and I did not feel I should do anything without consulting the fathers and doctors of the church, because I live off Thomas Aquinas. He's my major source, although the other fathers and doctors too. So I wanted to fully get to grips with the whole area, because I didn't think I should do anything without knowing what does the church want me to do, because you can think you've got something and maybe the church doesn't want you to do it. So that's the area I went into. I consulted exorcists. I consulted people who were being in the deliverance ministry. And most of all, I thought, I'm not going to put anyone through this if I haven't been through it myself. So I phoned up a lay religious community in Liverpool, and I said, do you have anyone there that actually just does deliverance? Because if I'm going to work in this ministry, I don't want to give on anybody through what I have not been through myself. And there was Miles Dempsey was there. He's been doing the deliverance for the last nearly 40 years. So we've got, he's got sort of right of custom, which you have in the church if you do say more than 30 years, unchallenged by hierarchy, and it's within the teaching of the church. It's what they call right of custom. You're permitted to do it. So I didn't know that when I phoned. I only knew that there was a man up there that was very good, and I didn't even know his name properly, right?
It seems that you were led from one thing to the next.
So I went to him and I said, look, I would like you to deliverance on me, because I want to experience this myself before I do it on anybody else.
Sister, I know we're going to talk more about it later, but I think it's important to say it at this point, that the church does allow lay people to do deliverance.
Oh, yeah, if they're tested. There are two types they're allowed to do. One type is using the minor rite of exorcism. Now, that person has to be appointed by a bishop. They can only use it. They can't do solemn. And the church asks that the bishop must appoint lay catechists to do the minor rite of exorcism.
Okay.
Now, that needs the bishop's permission. As a charismatic gift among the charisms, the church says we must exercise the charisms. That is not an official right. If you do this ministry, you are not allowed. I would not be allowed to go out and use an official right of the church. It just would not be allowed. I'm very many times, assistant to exorcist using the major rite, the solemn rite, and the minor rite.
Where the exorcist would be doing the major rite.
The exorcist would be doing it, and I help by being there praying the whole time.
Sister, let's go back to Miles Dempsey.
Oh, yeah. So I went to him and said, look, well, I'd like you to do this over me. And he said some prayers in a very quiet, gentle voice. There's no shouting, no theatricals, no nothing. Just very quiet, gentle voice. Told anything around to leave. And something quite remarkable happened, because while he was praying, I could feel my head moving backwards. But because I was in an sort of an armchair, but very upright armchair, and there was a big cushion in the way, my head didn't reach right back to rest, you see. Now, he noticed that, and he went off, still praying. He went off across the room, brought a cushion across, and put it behind my head so I wouldn't feel any strain in my neck, right? And he carried on praying. And then when he stopped, I opened my eyes, and I had to shut them immediately. The whole room seemed so bright, I couldn't bear to look at it. And then I said, oh, gosh, I can't open my eyes. Meanwhile, I had been coughing. And the week before, I was getting over some flu. So I had a real whooping cough, something left in my lung, right? So when I was coughing, it tapped into that. There's these great big sort of whooping coughs came out so loud. I thought the rest of the community around the house, they're going to think I've got a whole legion of spirits in me coming out with all this noise going on, This is a nun, for goodness sake. What's this nun doing with spirits in a whole legion, So, so anyway, everything was very bright. And so he got up and he pulled the curtains, because there was a lot of sunshine in the room, pulled the curtains, very heavy ones, and he put a little corner light on in the corner of the room. Said, do you feel better? Is that better for your eyes? And I said, yes, it is. And very gradually, my eyes were now open. I had them closed the whole time. My eyes were opened, and gradually I was okay. And then I was aware that I felt so light. I myself felt light, as if something had gone, which it had. But that was my experience. Now, in the years after that, the people I prayed with say the same thing. Oh, I feel lighter. They all say, it's not every single one, but most of them, they all say exactly the same thing. Oh, I feel lighter. And some people, when they come out of confession, they say, oh, I feel lighter. And that's because they probably confessed a sin for the sincerity of heart and taken away the foothold for a demon to have an area of temptation. Because the sacrament gives a strength. In whatever area you confess, it imparts a grace of strength. I will not do deliverance on anyone unless we've been right through their life. And I keep finding people have a lot of unconfessed sins, and it's one of the ways spirits are able to get in and get a foothold. They're not possessed, but they get a foothold to tempt them, a big, strong foothold. And those people, if they went to confession frequently, they would never have that problem in their life. But some people go into confession, they can't feel lighter, and that's why a spirit has gone. You don't have to be possessed to have spirits around and that can stick on you like a leech. You can have them if you've got an area which you don't confess, habitual sin. Yeah. And so that is that lightness. And I experience that.
Yes. Sister, can you just take us back to the spiritual realm?
The spiritual realm is everything that connects us with God, who is spirit. In the spiritual realm, God created, as it were, at the apex of creation. Man is not the apex of creation. The angels are apex of creation. This is the teaching of the church. Because God created them, so you have certain choirs of the angels that are primarily in heaven adoring, praising, worshipping God. And you have stratas of those choirs that are specifically for the ordering of creation. And another strata, the third lowest strata, for the help of man, specifically. For instance, the powers. Take the choir of powers. Thomas Aquinas will tell you that those are specifically to help man in the elimination of the demonic. So they could be called on. You have archangels who give great announcements. So you have all this, a whole angelic range, and you have 9 choirs, each with their own specific vocation from God.
And of course, Sister, our own guardian angels.
Oh, yes. Our guardian angels, it's like the bottom 3 choirs of angels are principalities, archangels, and angels. And from those angels, amongst those angels, we are given a guardian angel. And the reason we are given a guardian angel is because we have to have this struggle with evil angels.
Okay, so there are good angels. You've just been describing some of them. And there are fallen angels.
Yeah. St. Paul tells us in Ephesians 6:12, and if I may quote him, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, he's talking there about how our angels, good holy angels that God has given us, have been given to us to protect us from these evil forces. When he uses words like rulers and authorities, he's talking about the choirs of angels who fell, because Thomas Aquinas teaches that the angels fell from all the choirs of angels except the seraphim. They fell from all the others, and that therefore we need protection against them. So a part of our journey through life, if we are living a good Catholic life, if we're receiving the sacrament, if our confessions are honest, if we are keeping the 10 Commandments, these things won't come near you. You're defended. If you give time to prayer, even more important every day, the demons can't get near to you. They just can't do it. And that's why most Catholics don't experience anything unusual in their life or thinking it might be demonic, because there isn't anything. Whereas people who are living a life where they commit mortal sin habitually, then they start experiencing things. They open themselves to the spiritual forces of evil. They open themselves to be pawns almost. And that's where the demonic gets in. But we need a guardian angel to defend us. And John the Cross and Thomas Aquinas, but mainly John the Cross, teaches us that when you're given special graces in life, the devils can see which angel has brought it to you. And according to the choir of that angel is in, God permits, and this is John the Cross teaches this, God permits a demon from the equal choir of the demonic angels to tempt you on that level. as out, and John the Cross says it's out of a sense of justice, so that when you look at the lives of the saints, you find they're tempted by greater and greater evils.
That's right.
And when they get really big spiritual grace, like Teresa of Avila or Padre Pio, they get tempted by Satan himself. You see,
Right,
and that's why it's God raising some people to a very high degree of holiness. But every grace they get means they're going to be tempted on that higher level. Now, that spiritual realm is everything where our spirit, our soul, interacts with God. That's the spiritual realm.
Sister, we have seen this in the lives of the saints, and I suppose Padre Pio is a very recent example. And this is church teaching, sister.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't go wrong with the Catholic Church for anything to do with the spiritual life or the realm of the spirit, whatever language you use. You can't go wrong with the Catholic Church because she has 2,000 years of direct experience and interaction with that spirit world, both good and evil. You can't go wrong if you're a Catholic and you follow the faith.
And of course, sister, we have talked about the Holy Trinity, the whole spiritual realm, the Holy Trinity, the good angels, the fallen angels, and we will get to heaven, hell, and purgatory. So, sister, where are we going to next?
Well, I think it's as well to realize who our enemy is, that the scriptures and Jesus himself warned us against. And that enemy is Satan and everything under his strategy. And this is fully taught in the church, but it needs to be elucidated because so many people don't even think he exists. So I think next time we will look at exactly what does the church teach, where is it in the scriptures, and what is his personality like. So the personality of Satan is what we will look at next time.
So we're really starting with the boss.
Starting at the top, yes. I was
or
advised,
the bottom, we might say.
Exactly. Depends on your viewpoint. Yes.
Thank you, sister. So back next time.
All right. Thank you.